7:37 on TSN 690. This is the weekend game plan. I'm your host, Matthew Ross. We're here Saturdays and Sundays, 7 to 9 a.m. Still to come on this program, just after 8 o'clock, we'll have Habs breakfast. Stu Cowan and the Montreal Gazette will join us on the phone. Jay Farrar here in studio. Dave Trentadue is on the board. And we're going to talk to a gentleman who's busy, to say the least. He was doing the post-game yesterday for the Montreal Canadiens game. He's doing the play-by-play today for your Montreal Alouettes in front of a sold-out crowd down at Molson Stadium versus Toronto. New head coach Jacques Chapdelaine. And we'll talk Owls, we'll talk Habs with him. You know him from Off the Cuff, from the Montreal Forum. It is Mr. Sean Campbell. How you doing, sir?
Good. Congratulations on the new show, Matt.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Congratulations on the beard. I hear it's a big hit on social media.
Yeah, I call it my survivor beard. I went on vacation this summer, and then I just didn't shave. So 39 days, that's what I would look like.
I think that counter should be in every tweet, like 30 in the corner, like 39, 40, 41. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, you're kind of like a road warrior. I mean, you're everywhere. You're involved in most of the broadcasts for various sports. So I think you should keep it.
All right, I like it. That's the vote. It's interesting when I put it up there. A lot of people thought, it's me that wants to keep it, and my wife doesn't want to keep it. No, the wife's all for it. The kids are all for it.
Wow.
It's me that I was hesitant about.
So, are you gonna go like Duck Dynasty on us, or?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Yesterday, you were on the post-game show for the Habs game against Ottawa. I was listening to the post-game with you and Mitch Gallo. I was going to the Spaceman screening last night, and you had a lot of time to fill in a post-game, but a lot of different questions as well. Not exactly the A lineup last night, but some interesting results. Montoya plays well. Certainly, Paul Byron had a good game. Anything else you take from that game last night?
Yeah, it's interesting because the game, we could say, yes, it turned into an overtime. Canadians tie it late and win it, right? But that's what you're going to take out of it. But it's still preseason, and there's, winning and losing really doesn't come from these hockey games. The same thing's going to happen tonight, right? They're going to Toronto. Does it matter if they win or lose? No, it doesn't. There's questions you want to ask, and when you're looking at guys that aren't on the team, you look to see if can they make the team. So I wanted to watch Mike McCarron. I wanted to watch Charles Soudon. Are they doing enough to turn heads of the Montreal Canadiens management? And I think Mike McCarron's really starting to, take that turn towards, I'm a top 13 forward. I should be part of your plans this year. And that's one of the things that I liked about his game last night, especially with a lineup like that. Paul Byron, look, he was a story because he had 3 points. But is there any concern about Paul Byron making this team?
Right.
No. And you could clearly see that they have an idea of where they want to put him with Mitchell and Deneau. Same thing with Al Montoya. I'd be more concerned about how Montoya played if Condon was playing well. But Condon hasn't been playing well, so it's really, this is Al Montoya's job. It's there. Tonight, when the Canadiens have probably a couple more veterans in the lineup, what are we going to be looking at? We're going to be looking at chemistry. Do Galchenyuk and Pacioretty still, work well together? How does the power play work? Who's manning the point on that power play? Where does Shea Weber fit in when he gets into the lineup? Like those, when you look at the guys that are in the lineup, you look at the team a little differently. It's not about can they make the lineup. It's like, what are they doing? Do they look good? Do they look ready? That's when you're working the pregame show in the preseason, it's definitely a different angle than a regular season game.
Chatting with Sean Campbell here on Weekend Game Plan with Matthew Ross. We're here till 9 o'clock. You mentioned Deneau, a guy who was heralded, obviously, coming into the NHL and now sort of a bottom 6 guy. He scores the winner last night. But overall, what do you see from him? Because, he was here for a little bit last year. It's still hard to gauge what his ceiling is.
Yeah, and, I think the Canadiens are excited about him. One, he was drafted by Chicago when Marc Bergevin was there. So Bergevin really likes this guy, and it was apparently Bergevin that really pressed Chicago to draft him. All right, so that's one thing. Marc Bergevin likes him. Two, when I was watching him last year, I was like, I wasn't convinced. A lot of people like he's the next Montreal Canadiens third line center, and I'm like, maybe down the line, but right now I don't want to know going up against some of the top players in the Eastern Conference. I think he has to work on it just a little bit. But what they have him doing right now, he's playing wing. He's with Mitchell. He's with Byron. The way they skate, the way they work, I'm like, this is perfect right now for where he is in his career, trying to break an NHL lineup, to be in the lineup every day. I like where the Canadians have placed him. I like what they're doing with him. I like the idea of having this quick, hard, fast fourth line that you can trust maybe at the end of the game, that's going to maybe bring you some offense that's unexpected. You're not going to expect them to bring the goal output that, Gallagher, Galchenyuk, and Pacioretty are, but you're going to be able to put them out there in the Eastern Conference against any line, and they're going to be able to skate, work hard, and every time they go on the ice, to Byron, Mitchell, and even Flynn, they always have something to prove. So I kind of like that as a fourth line. I take those four players, and they're one line. They just work them together. Mitchell got hurt last night. They put in Flynn. They didn't miss a beat. It was the same line.
All right, Sean, let's switch over to the Alouettes. You're going to be at Molson Stadium today, expected to sell out crowd for the Owls versus Toronto. The kind of the last stand for Montreal if they do want to make a run down the stretch here to try and squeak in to the playoffs. A new head coach, a little more structure. What do you expect today from Montreal?
I expect some drive, some heart. I've been really seeing some response from the players about the excitement of playing in front of a sold-out crowd. Now, the Alouettes aren't in half-empty stadiums, and the fans that go to the stadium, they're into it. But the Alouettes haven't been performing. They only have one win on home field this year. What's interesting is that I see tweets and Instagrams from Alouettes players that are like, I'm so pumped that this building is going to be full, and it does bring a different atmosphere when you know that it's going to be sold out and that they've gotten all the seats. And I know that the Alouettes have been really pushing this. Sunday afternoon in the fall, you're going to be playing in front, and the football players get off of that. They really do. So I expect them to really bring a new effort, a lot of drive on the field. Now, does that translate into winning the football game? Does that translate into, big offensive plays with Jacques Chapdelaine now calling the plays? I don't know if it does. But if the players feel good about going into the game, if the players feel better about themselves in the locker room and there's less animosity because Jim Pop's no longer the head coach and they have a new guy running the show, and there's a little bit of hope, maybe that just translates into a victory. Maybe that translates into, 10 more points offensively. And this is where they are. They've actually lost, they're 3-9, but they've lost some games by some small margins, and it has been close. And I was reading Herb Zurkowski over the weekend, and Herb makes a great point. This team could easily be 6-6. They could be a 500 team. Their defense has kept them in so many games. They were just like a touchdown away, a missed field goal. Think about all the field goals that Boris Beatty missed earlier in the season. That's wins and losses in the standings. And now they're 3-9, and new head coach, and maybe they feel good about themselves, even though the record doesn't show it.
He is Sean Campbell. You can catch him on the broadcast today for the Montreal Alouettes versus the Toronto Argonauts live on TSN 690. Game time is 1 o'clock. We have the London game prior to that, Sean. So what time you figure you'll be on the air?
Well, it depends, I guess, how the football game goes. But, most NFL games hover around that 3-hour mark. It might be 3 hours, 5 minutes. It might be, so we're aiming the pregame to start around 12:30. Our good friend Herb Zurkowski is going to join us at 12:45 and kick off around 1:10. Myself and Paul Lambert. Really looking forward to this. I did one preseason game of the CFL this year, and I know that Rick's busy this afternoon with the Impact out in Orlando City, so that's on CJD 800. I'm just really looking forward to being in the booth and working alongside the guys that run our broadcast here.
Any truth to the rumor that you asked the NFL to have the Packers on a bye week this week because you were working the Owls game?
That is 100% true.
Nice. Worked out well.
It worked out very well. That anytime the Alouettes play at 1 o'clock on Sunday, I like to have the Packers on a bye week, or if they could be in the Sunday night or a Monday nighter, that works out well too.
All right, Sean, enjoy the game. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Have a good one. Good luck with the show.
Thank you.